of Local Government Councillor Complaints and Other Legislation Amendment Bill 2018 and the Local Government Electoral Implementing Stage 1 Belcara and Other Legislation Amendment Bill 2018 that was introduced to the Legislative Assembly and referred to the Economics and Governance Committee. Mr Deputy Speaker, it was an honour to have been appointed to the Economics and Governance Committee that has considered this legislation. We know how important the workings of the parliamentary committees are in ensuring that legislation is taken to the people of Queensland and to aid in that democratic process. We've heard from the other side some really interesting facts, and I just wanted to clarify the member for Mermaid that was talking about the need for more troops on the ground as far as the CCC is concerned. I just remind the other side that they sacked 30 people within the CCC. Shame. We have seen in recent years what some would say are the darkest days in local government history, a never-ending procession of newspaper headlines highlighting the significant issues that exist within local government authorities. I would also note that the issues caused are generally by the minority, and by and large in Queensland we have some excellent councillors and council staff that deliver exemplary service. But from the minority, what we have seen is bad behaviour within council, threats, poor governance, alleged bribery and corruption, all culminating in what can only be described as a system that is broken and a system in which the community has lost faith in. Systemic issues that impact all levels of government, systems that reflect on us all as leaders within our community. Mr Deputy Speaker, these issues have touched every part of this great state, from the far north in Cairns to Gold Coast in the south and out to Ipswich in the west and then some more. It absolutely speaks to the need for the state government and in particular the Minister for Local Government to have the necessary powers to ensure that the public's best interest is appropriately served by its elected representatives in local government. In 2012, under the LNP government and the stewardship of the then Local Government Minister David Crisafulli, we saw yet again another example of legislation being watered down, diminished, and this has most certainly been a contributing factor to some of the issues that we see making the headlines here today. Mr Speaker, at the heart of these reforms is the important value of integrity. Integrity underpins these reforms. These reforms before the House will deliver greater transparency, accountability and effectiveness of our local government and its elected representatives. It will provide our community with the confidence they rightly deserve to have in their system of government and their elected representatives. A streamlined system for making, investigating and determining complaints about councillors in Queensland, and confidence in knowing that vital decisions are made about how their communities grow and develop are not driven by people seeking favour as a result of political donations. Issues with our system were brought to the fore during the 2016 local government elections, and we've continued to see over the course of the past 2 years these continue to be ongoing. And as I said, our very own Mayor said to me out in the Redlands that these really are some of the most darkest days in local government. The bill delivers on the government's commitment to introduce the lapsed 2017 legislation to establish a new independent assessor to deal with councillor complaints more effectively. This legislation will see Queensland's councillors subject to a compulsory code of conduct. Mr Deputy Speaker, the head of the Queensland Electoral Commission at the time, Walter van der Merwe, told the Crime and Corruption hearing into the 2016 local government elections that he had received significantly more complaints in the 2016 election than he had done in previous local government elections. It was interesting for me to note out in the Redlands that in the lapsed inquiry undertaken by the Legal Affairs and Community Safety Committee, 40% of those complaints had come from Redlands City local government jurisdiction. So what's important about this bill is that it will deliver a strengthened, improved councillor complaints process that ensures the integrity of the system whilst providing our communities with confidence in both the process and the people elected to represent them. It absolutely delivers on the agenda of ensuring transparency and accountability and its importance to Queenslanders. It's what the people want to see, and it's an agenda the people of Queensland so clearly endorsed in 2015 with the election of the Palaszczuk government, running on an agenda that was in stark contrast to that of the dark days of the Newman era. In the Redlands, I've received feedback from my community that suggests they've lost faith in the system, in the local government system. They've seen repeat offenders, frequent flyers, some might say, that continue to bring the important role of local councillors into disrepute. And you only need to visit the Councillor Complaints Register for my region to see exactly what I'm talking about. We've had the full gamut of issues: constituents threatened, disruption of council general meetings and alleged inappropriate conduct. There have been questions raised over protocols followed in decision-making processes as well. Mr Speaker, it demonstrates a system that is broken. This broken system is further highlighted in the report Councillor Complaints Review, a fair and effective and efficient framework prepared by a panel that comprised the former Integrity Commissioner Dr David Solomon. The independent panel was established in April 2016 and a review initiated in response to concerns raised by the LGAQ and the LGMAQ in regard to the effectiveness of the existing councillor complaints framework. The report found that the legislative and policy framework currently in place for dealing with councillor complaints was overly confusing and difficult to navigate. The report made 60 recommendations, of which 50 of these have in principle been given effect to. A key component of this bill is the establishment of the Independent Assessor and an Office of the Independent Assessor. The Independent Assessor will be responsible for investigating all complaints and relevant information about councillor conduct before deciding how a complaint should be dealt with. Importantly, local government CEOs will no longer be placed in the difficult position of undertaking preliminary assessments about complaints about councillors. The Office of the Independent Assessor will provide an independence from local government, creating a new front door that will deliver greater confidence in the integrity of complaint management for our communities. During the committee's public hearings, we heard from many stakeholders. The CCC was generally supportive of the bill's proposed model for dealing with councillor complaints, including the establishment of the Independent Assessor. Kelvin Chin Fat, who represented Moreton Bay Regional Council, stated, "You will see from our submission that we are broadly in support of the bill, particularly the role of the Independent Assessor." The bill's proposal to develop a uniform and compulsory code of conduct for councillors to be approved by regulation will again provide a consistent level of behaviour across councillors in our state. It gives certainty to constituents on what they should expect from their elected representatives. It's another excellent mechanism that drives integrity and provides clarity on what is acceptable behaviour and what is not. The Code of Conduct, along with the definitions of inappropriate conduct and misconduct, are clarified by the bill. They will provide consistent and clear standards of behaviour for all councillors. It will make crystal clear the conduct our community expects from its local elected representatives. Mr Deputy Speaker, we know that there are times when complaints are frivolous and vexatious in nature, and that the current system does not deal with this effectively. The reform sought in this bill provides for increased penalties that will apply to discourage frivolous and other improper complaints. It will be a genuine filter for both council and the community. The bill also strengthens offences, notably new offences, to provide protection from reprisal for local government employees and councillors who make complaints about councillors' conduct, and to ensure the confidentiality of investigations is maintained. The local government electoral implementing Stage 1 of Belcarra is the first step in implementing the recommendations from the Belcarra report. And what's important about this legislation is that it holds to account not just candidates in local government elections, but it holds to account candidates in the state government elections. We are not a government that says, do as I say, but not as I do. We know that we must hold ourselves accountable to the very same set of integrity standards that we expect our local government candidates to adhere to when it comes to banning property developer donations. During the public inquiry process, it must be noted that the Queensland Executive Director of the Property Council of Australia advised that their policy was not to donate to political parties and candidates, and that it was for the very same reasons identified by the CCC as to the issues that arise when property developers donate to political parties and candidates. In fact, he went further to suggest that many of the members had the same policy to not donate to political parties. It is important to note that the New South Wales Government has successfully implemented the same legislation, which provides us with an enormous advantage in terms of modelling policy and procedures and for lessons learned. And we've heard from the other side that, that there's confusion. What we know is that there is absolutely a very solid foundation for us to take this legislation forward in its implementation. So in closing, Mr Deputy Speaker, I remind those on the other side of the House about integrity standards and suggest that they tell Malcolm Turnbull that it is unacceptable to waste taxpayers' money in a High Court challenge to avoid donation disclosure. It's just not on. This is great Labor policy that ensures we continue to deliver transparency, accountability and integrity in all of our systems of government, that provides confidence to all Queenslanders and their elected representatives. I commend this bill to the House.
Thank you, member. I call the member for Gympie.